Hello everyone, welcome back to Truth Talks. Today we have with us Zoro, Merchant Zoro from Twitter. It's my first time seeing him, talking to him, and that's been the pattern so far on the show. Welcome, Zoro, Lucas. Would you want to
Thank you.
introduce yourself to those of us who haven't come across your tweets, maybe, or who have not followed you on Twitter?
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, first of all. To just be invited to here and to see the lovely faces and people that you've met on this podcast. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And I'm Lucas. I'm 22 years old, and yeah, I post what I think about, and I post what I think about the universe, and I post about God, finances, and just a little bit of that. Yeah, nothing. I don't skew too much.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, very humble human introduction. Oh, I would love to open off with the Zoro choice of character, right? When I came across the profile as well, it just the I think the profile picture of it just struck me. I've not watched one, but then I have a sense of what the character is. So, how did you end up on it? And we'll touch upon how anime and spirituality are related. But for to start off, I would love to know your reasons behind choosing Zoro as the character, and also maybe also the reason behind not choosing to show your face, having a faceless account. Is there any particular reason, agenda behind it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I chose Zoro because well, I started watching One Piece. I'm not a very big anime watcher. Like I've watched three in total, and One Piece is one of them. I'm still watching One Piece because it's a very large show. Um, but yeah, I chose Zoro because right around like episode 400, I really resonated with his attitudes. It's like his attitude is the sort of attitude where he could be extremely tired and like has no forces at all left in him, but he's still gonna fight. Like if someone challenges him, he's not gonna be like, "Oh, I'm tired. Just give me a minute." He's gonna no. I'm going to fight like I'm 100%. And he never complains. He never doubts himself, and for these reasons and some more, like I really resonated with his character. And the face, the profile picture in specific, that smile that he puts is like it's a very confident smile. It's a very almost there's a touch of arrogance in that smile, and I just love it. And I think it really mirrors my smile. I think it mirrors very well my smile. And in terms of being anon, I'm not very much anon, because if you look at my profile, yes, there's no immediate pictures, but I've posted some pictures before, 4 times maybe in like the span of 2 years. I posted like 4 pictures of myself. So for the loyal followers, they know my face. They know my face.
No, that's beautiful. Your reasons behind the smile, especially, and it's interesting because what caught my attention also on the feed was that exact thing. There's something in that smile which spoke to me as well, especially,
Yeah.
right? You could have any other photo of Zoro, and that wouldn't have caught my attention the way that exact photo did. And it somehow reminded me of Jiraiya from Naruto.
Mm.
This guy's being killed by his own students, right? The ones he trained, and they get strong, and he's betrayed and he's ambushed by them. And he just has this smile which conveys such compassion of sorts. That okay, I'm being killed by you guys, but you don't realize the karma that you guys are generating, the thing that you're doing. And there is a hint of that smirk, right? That shows that you're gonna suffer bitterly in the consequences of this, but I wish you don't. So it's fascinating how much can really be revealed through just these 2D expressions. It's not even a 3D
Yeah.
human we are, right? We are talking right now. And coming to anime also, there's a question which I think you would really be able to give a great answer to. In terms of role models, because many characters that I've been inspired by are also not maybe real, they're fictional. Maybe it's Howard Roark from Iron, or it's Naruto from Naruto, or it's a couple of characters, right? Fictional. Do you believe that these fictional characters can inspire us to push past what is traditionally considered, realistic, what's considered pragmatic for the world? These words that we use to, I think, hedge our own capabilities, our own potential, our own true expression. What do you think?
Oh yeah, that is a lovely question. Yes, I do think that, well, I've learned a lot from Luffy from One Piece, right? I've learned I've actually learned a little bit about miracles, and I've learned about destiny, and I've learned about compassion most of all, which is how, for example, his fought someone before, and then a couple episodes later, they meet again, and now they're in need of help, and he goes out and help his previous enemies, and maybe fights alongside them. You know, just because in that moment he saw that he changed a little bit. He wasn't being selfish anymore. That evil enemy wasn't being selfish anymore, and he was now expressing a need of help in terms of, he humbled himself, right? And he saw that he humbled himself, and so he's like, okay, now I'll gladly help you. And also to touch on the miracles, there's a part in the people who watched One Piece will know, in Dress Rosa. It's a Spanish name, or I'm not sure what kind of name it is. It's very weird. Dress Rosa, something like that, which is an island, and it governs by a king, an evil king, right? And in that island, the people were talking about how Luffy has. There's rumors that Luffy creates miracles wherever he goes, right? Because wherever he goes, like, the impossible happens, right? There's always these big bad evil people controlling things, and somehow, some way, he always pulls it off, right? And in that moment, I saw that his trick, in quotes, is he believes so much in himself that he makes other people believe in him, right? And I saw how, whenever he was fighting the big bad guy, everybody around him was like, no, I believe in him, right? With all their hearts, they were actually fully believing in his capabilities of defeating that enemy, right? And I think that's I think that's one of his tricks, again, in quotes. Which is, yeah, to have others believe in you is incredibly powerful. And also in terms of compassion, just to see how he treats everybody, he treats everybody the same way, and how he doesn't fall for lust, for example. Like, there was a time where a woman appeared naked in front of him to, like, try and seduce him, and he was just like, almost like a child who has no sexual visions. I bet he didn't get erect, bro. Like, I bet you, his face was just like neutral. He's just like, what are you doing? So yeah, just how he
That's
treats everybody the same way. Yeah, it definitely inspired me, and I took a long way. But to answer your question, despite these fictional stories being so out of reality, with superpowers and all these crazy things we don't have, despite all that, yes, there is so much to learn about growing your own self and becoming a better person. It's so much value I've gotten just from watching One Piece.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree, especially the point about the lust part where he has this childlike disposition where he doesn't see a woman as as an object worth possessing, worth desiring. It's fascinating. What I've come to believe is that when we look at great things in the world, right, we look at the effects essentially. We don't know what's driving them. Someone like Elon Musk, for example, we look at him and we see he's achieving these things. He just has 14 children across the globe and few trillion-dollar companies, and we just and I think the point that you're making, it just came to me right now as we were speaking. It's possible that what's driving them, what's fueling the cause for them, is actually itself something fictional. It's not real. And maybe it's like the quote that says, aim for the stars and maybe you'll, hit the sky or something, right? It's similar. I think you need that beyond realistic, idealistic levels of I would say values and principles to even maybe translate it into somewhat possible real life results. I think many of us make the mistake of aiming for something which is realistic and then we fall short heavily. That's where probably people get stuck in mediocrity. I've seen a lot of people who are quote unquote mediocre, right? And they're not bad people at all. It's just such a hedging in terms of values that everyone's doing just this. Let me aim for just that. Would you agree with that?
That is very well said. That is, wow, that is very well said. It made me think a bit. How you said, yeah, to drive someone to do great things, you need to be inspired by something out of this world. Yeah, that is really well said. And I think what is lacking in a lot of men, mostly, is that drive, that ambition to do something bigger than yourself. For example, I think this is something that every man yearns to do, but maybe most of men haven't thought about it, or even expressed that, which is to sacrifice yourself for your
Mm,
wife, or for your, to have a heroic death. Like, that is something so cool for us, to have a heroic death. Imagine that, like, you're saving your wife from, I don't know, a gang or something, and you just you just give yourself out. You get to live. It is so it is so magical to think about, or even to save people. I think every man wants to save, not just women, but like children, or even another weaker man, physically weaker man. You know, save people and to be the hero is something that I think every man yearns to be. But because, like you said, the expectations are so realistic, you
mm.
end up falling even shorter, right? So I think I just realized that these fictional stories are actually so much more important than just entertainment, but to drive our ambitions even higher than this physical world, so we can do great things in this reality, right? Yeah, that is, wow, it's a great connection that we just made. That's really awesome.
It's beautiful. That's the beauty of these talks. It's like truth starts arising on its own. It's just a matter of just the resonance which has
Yeah.
to be established. And regarding what you said, this is so true because I'm reminded of The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell, if I'm not wrong, right? The whole idea that I believe every man or woman has a certain frame that they see their story in. That maybe one sees the story as a game or as a drama where, it's a theater place where a lot of players are there and I have to play my role. Someone else might see it as there are other people to help and we are here for a mission. We are all here for the collective thing. But then the one I've resonated with so strongly has been the hero's journey. That I am here for an individual to my own self and which God has planted in my heart. And my only reason for being is to walk that path. And while we all have our fears, and when I was younger, we all fall prey to those status games and, safety, security, all that. But lately, I've been awakening to the realization that the path I'm meant to walk is completely singular. Like there's no one else I can take along. It's crazy. I might have a brother or a friend who's resonating, who might, join me for a while, right? Who might give the illusion of being on a similar path, but then he's going to diverge at some point. Everyone is going to diverge from the path except for my own self. And when I'm on something like this, I think you can relate. You cannot turn to any realistic guide at all. You need fictitious guides. You need fictitious characters to Siddhartha, it's a book by Herman Hesse. And that character is someone similar, right? He just has this courage to keep going his own. He goes to a certain point and he does what the world deems to be self sabotage. He just completely lets go of his life and he moves in a different direction. I've been doing that. Like before I came in online, I gave up a high paying tech job. Now I'm giving up my online presence. I used to write on Medium, I was a top writer there. I have 50K followers there, close to, and all these things. And then now I'm having to give up all of it, even the podcast, probably, right? The next episode might be the last. Time will tell. And I'm forced to walk a path right now, which is so singular. And I cannot walk that path or stay on that path if I believe that anything about this is realistic. This is pragmatic. So, what would you say to that?
I sort of relate to what you were saying. To our paths are so singular. I can relate to that because all of my life, whenever I was a child, there was a lot of time for loneliness and isolation, right? And then as I grew up, when I got into my late teens, then I started socializing more, having girlfriends, traveling more. But now I'm sort of back in that isolation mode. And I think God has put these isolated paths on the people that will then, in a later present, in a later future, collect, group even more people together. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is the one who knows how to be lonely that can join everybody together, is what I'm trying to say. You know, I think these more lonely paths are meant for the people who will, join more people together, because it is only alone that you truly can learn about yourself, right? You can learn the deepest roots of yourself, your deepest darkest desires, your darkest thoughts. And it is when you're socializing that, it's distracting. We can have deep conversations, but you can only talk about the surface level things about yourself. It can go a little bit deeper than surface, but it will never go to the deepest roots, right? That is something only alone you can do, right? At least I think of. At least I've never seen someone do that together, like in a conversation with something. Maybe with some drugs, maybe with LSD or some shrooms, maybe.
Yeah,
But yeah, but I do resonate with what you're saying, because I think, I don't know about your story, I don't know your life, but I do think that if you're taking that path, it's because in the future you'll be helping a lot of people, come together and inspire a lot of people and build up a lot of people.
absolutely. I agree with that completely. It's that this individual fragment called the self, this mind matter complex that is going around calling. I believe it's fascinating. There's a light on the path that comes to mind. It goes along the lines of, I think, realize that this individual is what you have created for your own benefit painstakingly to experience individuality and then to transcend individuality itself. Probably butchered it, paraphrasing it, but
Hmm.
it shows that God has created the individual to experience himself and then rise above that, transcend that to experience collectivity, experience unity, right? Wholeness. And I find that it's such a loving move, I would say. There's a difference between being a lone wolf out of rejection, which a lot of people espouse and I would say romanticize in society. And there is that sense that I want to give to the world, but for now I have to retreat within. So I develop the capacity so that I fill my own cup, so that I can pour into the world. And it brings back that martyr feeling, right, that you mentioned earlier, wanting to die for something, wanting to fight to something. I wouldn't even say fight to something, but fight for something to death. That there must be something I want to die for, right? I've lately been thinking about this a lot. What are all the things that I would be willing to die for? And if the number of things are rising, there's something right I'm doing in life. If the number of just causes that are I would die for were rising, it's incredible. And
Can I touch on that just real quick?
yeah, absolutely. Please feel free to.
You said there must be something that I'm willing to die for. And I think for you to actually be willing to die for something, you have to be willing to live for something, which practically that means while you are alive, you are working or training or whatever requires for that thing. So for you to come to that moment where you're sacrificing your life for that thing, for that person, that means you must have sacrificed a good chunk of your life to train for that moment, to practice for that moment. That could be martial arts training, that could be strength training, that could be mental training, whatever it requires. But yeah, you must be willing to live for it if you want to die for it.
Absolutely, that's beautifully said. I would agree 100% with that. It's this preparation. It's like lately I've been feeling that I'm being prepared. That sense that whatever is happening in life is that I'm being prepared. I don't know for what. I've had moments where I wanted to break down in gratitude to God because I can see that I'm being prepared, but I don't know what it is yet. All I have to do is not resist the preparation. Do you feel that way? Because it's the fact that we're talking.
I do feel that I've been getting prepared, especially because I'll tell you a little bit about my story. Because when I went to France a couple years ago, like 5 years ago, something like that, to study programming for video games. And I ended up on the second year, I ended up quitting the university because I was like, no, I'm gonna make money on my own. Like I wasn't enjoying it. I was seeing like, oh, I'm gonna go to a company and it's gonna be very, 9 to 5. I didn't like it. It didn't resonate with me, and I like to do things on my own. So I quitted, despite my parents not wanting me to do. Came back to Portugal. Oh yeah, but what I wanted to say was, in France, it was a huge moment for me for learning to control my emotions, because I cried a lot in that moment because I lost so much money trading when I was in France, so much money. And I was like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Like I was like panicking, how like I was thinking I ruined my life because I just quitted university and then I lost like €6,000, and it was such an emotional roller coaster, right? And I had to learn to. There was a very crucial moment because I had to learn to not care about things and at the same time behave like I care, like
Mm.
things matter, but then, have the duality of nothing matters, but I still want things to work out in the best way possible, right? So there was a big shifting moment, and then I came back here and started working a few months later. Then I met a couple years go by. I win a lot of money, I lose a lot of money. I'm just in this loop of winning and losing for some good years. Then I met a girl that I went to Canada with. I started working in Canada, and I really thought she was my soulmate, and maybe she still is, because it's a complicated situation. But to not go into that, I came back here in November of 2024, and we sort of separated because the distance wasn't good. And but this separation, what I'm trying to get at is this separation was really good because I spent all this time with a lot of people, right? All these years with a lot of people, um, trying to make money, just focus on money, 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 and then a couple relationships here and there, and it was just so exterior. It was so out of myself. And now these past couple of months, it's just been a healing phase. These past couple, like since January, it's just been isolation healing phase. I'm talking to barely anybody, and I'm just focusing on myself, just meditating throughout the day, eating clean, exercising a lot, and I'm just like I'm doing basically, and I'm not even focused on money. I'm just letting go. Basically, it's just been a huge healing phase, and I think it's been preparing myself is what I'm trying to get at. It's This is a preparation phase that you've done a lot. You've done a lot from from the outsides. Now it's time for you to do a lot from the inside, and you will see the results outside. It's sort of what I'm trying to get at. Is these past experiences, all these losses in people and money, were for me to realize, okay, I need to heal. I need to better my inner garden. This is what I should focus on. Stop focusing on whatever's going on outside, because you can't control the outside. You can only control your inner garden. So yeah, it's just, and I do feel such a big preparation phase. I do feel like something huge is gonna happen this year for myself.
I'm just stunned by the utter synchronicity and the similarity of experience because this exact thing has happened. I had a spiritual relationship which just awakened me out of the blue. I was the kind of, I had a whole fuckboy look going on. I was into the red pill, trying to pick up women, and then, I went through a couple of relationships. I don't even know if I should call them relationships, just, interactions, I would say, entanglements.
Yeah.
I had a brand where I wanted to teach men how to self-maximize themselves, all that. And I met this girl years ago. Then boom, I just awakened out of the blue. And still, of course, we have that that old way of life that comes in, that old version of us, the one for the outer, that kept resisting until I went to meditation retreats. I probably meditated for maybe 600-700 hours at this point. Well, and yeah, I just came to a point where I'm just empty right now. I don't have like a life goal. It's just that there is an experience of life and a knowing of life that's unfolding itself. And all I really have to do moment to moment is just heed what's within. And the last couple of months have been exactly this. My bio line is that on an inner journey of self integration after an outer arc of self maximization. This was literally what happened to me as well. And I think, would you agree that there is a shift from a linear way of living to a non-linear way, and in between that is where the healing happens. So there's this linear manner of I'll do this, I'll do X, which will lead to Y. The causation side of thing. While the non-linear is I just exist and something's gonna happen. Shit's gonna happen out of the blue just because of the by virtue of how I am as a person. And I think the non-linear opens a lot of space up for grace, for the divine to intervene, for the divine to guide and that's been fascinating.
So you touch on a great point, which is when you live non-linearly. So basically, you just live in the present moment as much as possible. That's when you open up to yourself for miracles, right? I like to say that miracles can only happen to those who don't think about the future. Because if reality is based on your beliefs, right? If you, let's say, you start envisioning a future for yourself, you start thinking, let's say, you start thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow, right? And so whenever you think of something about tomorrow, you are already putting a physical belief of what can happen, right? So if reality is based on your beliefs, what happens when you don't believe anything about the future? Like you just don't have any beliefs about the future. What happens? Anything is possible then. Like you open the gateway to infinity basically. And it is when you are constantly thinking about the future and your future plans and what are you going to do tomorrow and next year or whatever, you put your possibilities in a corner, right? Like you limit what can happen because all your beliefs are always, always, always grounded in physical reality. Because we are stuck here. We are in a human body and we can't really comprehend fully the quantum physics and or the divine interventions, how they work, how they we can't fully comprehend that. So in trying to manifest something for our future, we are limiting what can happen and potentially making it not so great as it could be, right? So, Luffy actually touches on that without him even knowing, which is he has one goal, right? I want to become the king of pirates. That's his goal. And then he never like works towards it, right? He just goes, he's just like he goes where the wind is sailing basically. He's like, okay, I want to become the king of pirates, so I need a crew. Okay, let's go to the nearest city, nearest island. And he goes there, he finds Zoro, he finds someone that he's like, okay, this guy's cool, he seems like a great person, I want you to be in my crew. And he's like just walking where the wind takes him and picking up crew members, and then that makes him meet new people. And so what I'm saying is he's not planning anything, he just has one big goal, and he's like, okay, let's see where this takes me, right? And that's, I think, it's a very good takeaway to life, which is, just create that one huge goal, that one huge ambition, and then let God write the rest of the script. Let God just, make it, show you the way, basically, right? Because if you're putting in small goals, at least this was doesn't work for me. Maybe it works for some other people, but by putting in small goals, I think, yeah, it limits it, and it makes me not want to, it makes it less fun is what I'm trying to say. And for me, if it's not fun, I can't do it.
I agree. It's the same with me. I've had a lot of business opportunities where, I could have made a lot of money and all that, but then my whole metric has been, do I enjoy doing this or not? And the manifestation point you touched upon, to bring that up again, this is the exact thing I found myself scratching my head over. I know a few. One, the cosmos seems to know better, whatever you want to call it, cosmos, the dharma, God, destiny, right? It seems to know better than I do with absolute clarity. So, so makes no sense. Okay, let's say that I do have a good idea of what it wants. Why in the world would I impose what I want to do and manifest it? It's literally that. Why would I create the reality that I want when the universe knows better?
Exactly, man.
Sense to me.
Exactly.
That okay,
You took
and I was
you
just
took the words
discussing.
out of my mouth.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I see these posts and people claiming to be in spirituality and they're like law of manifestation. Why the fuck would you want to manifest something when it's what's meant for you is already there? I want to. It's like I'm going the opposite route, right? You would relate. I'm trying to break down the obstacles to surrender. I'm trying to break down what are the obstacles which are even. It's like I'm trying to de-manifest everything so that what actually has to happen does happen. So it's fascinating that this whole manifestation side of things, you realize inherently that you still have desires. Why are you desiring something? A desire is an inherent affirmation of lack. It means that I lack something. Of course, we all have those feelings. I have my own scarcity beliefs, but then I know I have God finally. And God knows what I need. I only need to focus on what God wants from me. So I think this happens a lot in spirituality, especially in these circles, right? You see these woo-woo ideas where they're just exposing something which is physical, and then someone wants success, someone wants a material goal, and he's using these manifestation rules to manifest it into reality. And you just realize that you're playing these material games using some quote unquote spiritual means, but the game is finally just you're stuck in the realm of desiring something external.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. God knows what you want better than you.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's exactly that. So basically, all you have to do is heal, heal as much as possible. And healing means practically what healing means is taking care of yourself, mentally and physically. Not only exercising and a clean diet, but just whenever you are in a situation where you feel yourself getting angry or any negative emotion, you need to stop at that moment and analyze, is this emotion being used as a tool, or is it consuming me? Well, healing also means more compassion. Healing also means going out and picking up the trash from the streets,
Hmm.
doing things for bigger things than yourself, or doing things that are bigger than you. That's what healing means, is like dissolving the idea of selfishness, the idea of I'm doing things for myself. You need to do things for the world. That is true healing. For example, look, I don't like to talk about this a lot because I don't like, I'm not comfortable. Okay, let me rephrase it. I don't like when I talk about myself, right? But I'm gonna bring this up because I think it's valuable. Because I don't, sometimes people might not see it. Oh, you're not being humble, or whatever. Maybe I'm complicating this way too much. But whenever I'm in the streets and I'm walking and I see a trash on the ground and there's a bin right next to it, I pick it up and I put it. And I've made this habit so consistent that it's automatic now. It is completely automatic. And I think it's very, very valuable for the soul to pick up trash from the streets. I think it is very valuable because you are cleaning mother nature. And
Hmm.
the reason why I started was for a very selfish reason. I was like, okay, I wanna get a better karma, or I want to do good actions. It was very selfish, right? But I think it is very okay to start for selfish reasons. Like in the gym, you start to, I want to get a dream body, I want to pick up girls, so I need better body. Start for the selfish reasons. It is very good to start for the selfish reasons, because if you stay, you'll only stay for the journey. You'll not stay for the destination. Nobody stays for the destination. And that's what happens with me with picking up the trash, because I started for the selfish reasons, and I saw some progress. Like, I felt better about myself. I did see myself getting a little bit lucky in situations that were very uncommon, because I read Ruby Deja Ru on Twitter talking about it, and I did see myself, like, he talked specifically about pick up 108, I think it was 108 pieces of trash in one day, and your luck will skyrocket for that day, right? And I did that, but then I started doing every day, not 108, but like just one or two whenever I'm walking, and I did see some improvements. But then after a few days, I was just like, oh, I don't like to see trash on the ground anymore. I don't like to see it. It's just, it's kind of disrespectful for me to just see it and not do anything. So then I started doing it for the journey. And this is what I mean. Start for the selfish reasons, and you stay for the journey, and that's where real progress is.
That's beautiful. I fully agree. I cannot not agree with it at all. I mean, the gym is a great example. I don't think anyone in the world starts the gym thinking, oh, I just want to take care of myself, my health.
Yeah.
Generally, I was bullied in school. That's why I started going to the gym that, oh, I'm going to get back at these bullies. I'll show them who I am. You know, all these girls who thought I was just a cute little kid. But then after a point, you start realizing, I like to call it the transformation of the motive itself. The motive itself undergoes a change, undergoes a transmutation. I've seen this with any journey that demands hard work, that demands consistency, and that demands perseverance. Because a similar reason came to me regarding in India, especially, right? Drivers, maids, security guards, waiters, waitresses, all these. The wage gap is quite high. It's not like the US where they're all, the blue collar and white collar. Here, domestic work is quite. In the beginning, I started tipping people on the higher end. So if it was 43 rupees, for example, I would just send 45 or 50. And this became a habit, and I could see the progress in that motivation itself. Afterwards, the motivation became that, okay, these people, whenever we send a digital transaction, there's a certain amount of money that's cut for them. Then if they were late or if I delayed them for a few minutes, right, I put them in discomfort. I started giving out money and then purity of the intent kept going up higher and higher and higher. And I'm surprised. At this point, it's almost that when I do that, there's a certain deeper layer of purity that comes up. And I'm doing it for that at this point, that I want to see how pure of an intent can even be generated. Even the karma point, right? It's beautiful. Maybe some of us are at least subconsciously started because of that. That my karmic score is gonna improve. Oh, it's great. But after a point, it starts begging the question: God is so clearly taking care of me without any doubt, and the only job I've been given is to take the best of my ability. In the world, wouldn't I do that? There's one job given. My safety is guaranteed. So there's nothing I need to fear. God's only telling me that whatever gifts you have, give them to the world. So it comes to a point where there's nothing else to do. It's like, what else do I do at this point except for,
Yes, yes, exactly. You just start to, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
sorry, yeah, I was just saying, like, you sort of even, we all fall prey. Even I think I definitely fall prey to these fears and insecurities and all that from time to time. But then there's something, God just shows me something. There's some sign, omen, something which shows that, yeah, I exist. It's fine. You're safe. And then the change of heart goes back to the same thing. There's nothing else to do. How do I help? How can I be of service? I've done this exercise where I've sat with myself and thought, what is the deepest desire really if I was free of all fears? I realized the only desire is to be as useful to the world and God as possible. There's nothing else to do.
That is actually a very good subject for people who it's a very common thing to happen to people who get very rich, for example. They become very, very bored, right? Because like, okay, I've got all this money, and if I make more money, it's not gonna change my lifestyle. It's not gonna, it's not gonna affect them in any way. But they keep wanting to make more money because they're like, well, I need something to do. It's like you're playing a game. Imagine playing a game, but you have all the challenges done. You have like you've done everything in the game. Like you've traveled. So like you're like, well, now what? And you're what you touched on, which is, well, there's the only thing left to do is to help others. That is something that you can do for a lifetime. It will never get boring. It will never stop being useful. It will never stop being required. It's just it's something you can do infinitely, and it will infinitely fulfill you. So I think that's, yeah. Imagine a world where everybody attempted to help as much as possible. Everybody, if we would live in heaven, but if we do our part, if we do our life is going to be even more beautiful. But yeah, it's just okay. I just had a thought, which is I was thinking, okay, when I make it, I'll I'll start. There's this idea of when I make it, I'll start helping other people. But what if it's more, for those people who haven't made it? Maybe you haven't made it because you need to help out more people first in order for you to reach that path, for you to open up that path to that destiny of making it after, you know? Because I do think there are some people who needed to make a lot of money first before helping other people because they don't have, maybe their soul doesn't have any other way to help people without the money, to help charities or build houses or whatever. But then there are some other souls, maybe like you and I, where you needed to go through all of this traumas and experiences to really learn how to speak with people, how to inspire people, what makes people be driven when they're at rock bottom and they feel hopeless, right? And it is much more valuable than money, right? And then only when, and I'll speak for myself, only when I started attempting to help as much as possible in terms of not letting people become negative. Whenever I see a friend of mine talking negatively about himself, like I stop him and like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you speaking like that? Why would you ever put that spell onto you? Like, I don't say these words, but it's the meaning that I bring onto. So yeah, I do think for those people watching and they're like, why haven't I made it? Maybe you haven't made it because you need to learn a lot more about yourself first, and then by learning a lot more about yourself, you'll be able to do a lot more good in this world, right? Because you know other people as much as you know yourself,
Hmm.
right? You can't. It's very funny. I Very funny story. When I was working in construction, there was this guy that we were chatting while working, and then we entered the topic of coffee, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I like black coffee, no sugar," and I was like, "Yeah, black coffee, no sugar." He's like, "Sugar's for women," and I'm like, "Yeah, sugar's for women," and it was like very manly. Yeah, we're black coffee. That's man's coffee, right? Couple hours go by, the owner of the house comes in and is like, "You guys want coffee?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want coffee." And he's like, "Yeah, I want coffee, a little bit of sugar." And I'm like, "What the fuck, a little bit of sugar? What was that all talk about?" And then a couple days go by, and we get into a little fight, and he's like, "I know people, you're trying to," like, he was assuming what I was thinking, like, "You were thinking this and that," and I'm like, "Why are you assuming what I'm thinking?" But then what stuck to me was him repeating over and over, "I know people, I know people." And I'm just thinking to myself, brother, you don't even know yourself.
Hmm.
Like, you said you didn't like sugar, and then a couple hours go by and you say you want sugar in your coffee. Like, you don't even know yourself, right? So it's very important. You only know other people as much as you know yourself. This circles back to what I was saying about being in isolation, because you need to learn about yourself in order to help other people more.
No, I fully agree. It brought to mind lately that there was a point when I began knowing myself through the whole self-improvement thing, habits, how the world functions, the whole matrix and all that, right? We have been through that for sure. I felt this condescension towards others that I know the world better, I'm more aware, I'm smarter, I'm more intelligent. I felt separated. But lately, as I've actually begun to know myself, the sheer mass of contradictions that the self really is, right? We like to think we are very stable, we are whole and everything. But you look within, you go deeper and deeper and deeper, you realize it's really a shit show going on. I look at people outside and all I see is children now. And I don't mean that in any other way. I just look at people and I feel compassion that, okay, this is a child and they're programmed. They're programmed. They've been carrying that program for 10, 20, 50 years. They passed it on to their children, but they still have those whining, those, temper tantrums. And it's like, I don't know. This is actually what I've been feeling. Maybe I'm seeing the one child in myself, but I look outside and all I see is that innocence, that gullibility, that naivety, right? Someone said it beautifully. I don't recall who said it. But his point was that's all there is out there. This whole evil and all that exists, but they are themselves misguided children finally. And that's such a beautiful perspective to have because now I feel empowered and even more driven that I need to know myself more so that I can do something to possibly, rewrite some of the programming. There's little we can do. But it's fascinating. And the point you said about making it, I realized it's all karma, right? Finally, that the law of equivalent exchange. I give, I take and I take and I give. That's all. It's all equal. So the ones who have made it without helping others, I think they're just reaping past lives karma or something that they had given out a lot, that helped a lot of people in the past. And those results are coming in now. So technically, helping others or being of use is literally the precondition to making it, quote unquote, right? However, whatever the definition of making it is. So what you say is right. Unless someone is riding off their past karmic balance, I think the way to make it is literally to start thinking at least at an intention level. How can I be useful to the world? How can I be useful to others? How can I?
And it's very funny. It's very funny that you touch on that, because I've realized that God made it so if you actually acted in the most selfish way possible, you'd be Jesus Christ, basically. Because think about it. If it's actually good for you to help others, then, like, do you see what I'm trying to get at? Like, if you acted in the most selfish way possible, I want the best for myself, then you do the best for others. So then, are you actually being selfish, or how does that work?
Good.
So it's actually, so when you were being selfish in the common way of using the words, you're just thinking, basically it's just a way of thinking of seeing the separation, just believing in the separation, that we're separate people and separate, maybe not even using the word souls. But yeah, it's very funny. It's very funny. You just got reminded of that. True selfishness is good then, I guess.
Oh, that's
It's
beautiful.
amazing.
You took words out of my mouth. I was going to touch on that, but it's beautiful that you said that. And would you agree? It's just a matter of ignorance. That's all. The more aware you become, it's not even a question of wanting to become selfless, right? I didn't sit down one day and thought that now I'll just, improve my selflessness. That didn't happen. I just kept knowing myself that what the fuck is wrong? Why am I suffering? Why is there suffering outside? And as I've become more aware, the behavior has changed by itself because I just realized that's just how the universe works. It's like what you give is what you get. And when I say get, it's not even physical. Right? When you give something, even the act of giving itself has an inherent spiritual getting of sorts. That when I'm giving, I'm feeling better. Why wouldn't I do it? Okay, I would do it even if I didn't feel better. But the fact of having this intention makes me feel even better. You see where this is going. The more you try to keep
Yeah, it's a loop.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
like
so
the more
funny.
you try to keep purifying the intent, right, the better it gets. So, is it really selfishness or is it selflessness? I would never know. I'm thinking that I have a purer intent now and I feel better. I feel purer. Then the intent gets purer and then I feel even better. So it's like the universe has coded everyone with this beautiful thing. This made me appreciate the intelligence of the universe itself. We are all coded with this, that look out for your fellow brothers and sisters and everyone and animals and plants and everything, and you will feel better. That's all. And that's the key. Keep doing this. We are rewarded essentially, right? Like in the Pavlovian sense. This is classical conditioning. The universe rewards us when we are good and we are pure, and it punishes us when we are quote unquote selfish.
Phrase it, I would rephrase it to not even, it's not even like God is rewarding or punishing us. I think it would be more we are rewarding and punishing us, you know? God is basically, I would see it as God is basically the force allowing this to happen, right? The force behind all creation, but we are sort of the ones who dictate if we get punished or if we get rewarded, right? Like it's not because, if God is all loving, why would he send people to hell? And the answer is, well, he doesn't. He doesn't send people to hell. People send themselves to hell. Right? People create their own hell. People create their own suffering. People punish themselves. And I saw this one tweet one time, which is, the shortcut is the punishment. Whenever we take the shortcuts, in and of itself, that's the punishment. God doesn't need to punish you. You're punishing yourself. So yeah, just to touch on that, I don't like to say that God is punishing or rewarding you. Despite then, in my alone time, I say, "Oh, glory to God! Thank you, God, for everything that you give me." It's very paradoxical. Paradoxical what we're all talking about. But yeah.
I get what you're saying. That's exactly how I would have phrased it as well. This personal, impersonal God is also complicated because what I see, God is also as this all-pervading force, right? And which is all loving. But at the same time, I feel this connection, loving connection towards sometimes it's a divine mother, it's the divine feminine. Sometimes it's God in a human Zeus-like form. Sometimes it's just everything. It's a plant, it's a dog. And what you said is absolutely true. I think the soul. I don't like using the word soul. I think you know why. It's abused and everything, but call it being, right? Whatever it is that is embodied essentially. I think every being chooses its own suffering. And the whole planes of suffering that they call, based on what I understand so far, is that when your suffering level capacity goes beyond what earth can hold, it's not that God is doing it, as you said. And when your own capacity for virtue transcends the earthly, put yourself higher. It's like how butter rises to the top and Vipassana courses, this is touched upon a lot. It's beautiful, the examples used. And then I realized that question of being taught, like finally we are being taught when there is pain. I mean, if you think about it, right? If I'm doing something where I know it's inherently self-serving at the cost of someone else, I don't feel good. I don't think anyone feels good. Maybe you get used to feeling that way. But the reason is, why am I feeling pain? It's like I'm being guided towards the right path. It's a lesson being taught, right? And when you say punishment, good, bad, hell, heaven, also, I think it's all just a lesson. Some souls need to go through that to learn that this is not the way to live life, this is not the way to approach life, and some don't need as much maybe. Because one Deepak Chopra, I think Paulo Coelho line comes to mind. He said pain and suffering are unnecessary, are not mandatory, right? Discipline and attentiveness are enough. That line has stuck with me since then. So if I'm disciplined and attentive to what reality is, what is, I don't need to put myself through so much pain and suffering to learn the very lessons. It's so. What would you say to that? Like this brings up a question which is interesting. It's that do we really have to go all the way? Some people say, you have to fuck things up so badly that the pain makes you reverse direction. Keep diddling at the end of things. We don't go fully into anger. We don't go fully into lust. We don't go fully into anything. So we don't even suffer bitterly in the true impact, right? And we just keep falling prey to non-optimal patterns.
Every pain that I've felt has brought me closer to God. I can say that much. It's like I'm on a boat and there's like this light at the end, but this light is shining so bright that I can't not notice it. That's kind of like what pain feels like to me. And I'll tell you this: I've let greed. That is, if I had to choose one of the seven deadly sins, that would be the one that attaches to myself in this lifetime. That would be the one that attaches better to myself, which is greed. I've let my greed consume me in a way that I've betrayed fellow friends, I've betrayed family, I've done a lot of I've done a lot of things that I regret a lot, and it brought not only pain to the ones close to me, but pain to myself. Where I was like, how was I able to do this? How was I able to bring myself to let this selfishness consume me so much where I've betrayed my own family, stole, lied from my own family just to have more money, just to, attempt to gain more money through trading, And it is to me, I felt like it was very needed for me to go through all of that to learn myself. There's this phrase where the tree that reaches heaven has its deepest roots in hell, right? And I do think that it is only, I don't want to use the word only, right, because that limits it, but to me it was I think it was very needed for me to do all those things, because I learned so much about how emotions consume me. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much how people bring themselves and justify in their head the actions that they're doing. For example, I'll justify me stealing because I was like, well, I'm gonna steal, but then I'm gonna make more money and I'm gonna give it back. And my intention was to give it back. Like like that was my true intention. Okay, I'm gonna make more money and then I'm gonna give it back. That was my actual intention, but it didn't happen. Right? Maybe it happened like once or twice, but in the majority of times, it didn't happen. So I learned a lot about how people justify themselves, justify their bad actions. Nobody thinks they're a bad person. Nobody thinks they're a bad person, right? And they aren't. In the truest form, they aren't a bad person. It's just bad actions. But nobody sees themselves as a bad person because they justify it themselves, right? And it's so funny how the mind manipulates yourself to, like, for every for every bad action, there's a good argument for it. It's so funny. It is so funny. So yeah, for myself, through I had to go through, the extremes of darkness to then come to or to start going through the extremes of light. But, I do think there's people out there who didn't have to go through the extremes to go through to the extreme of light. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I can't speak on others. But I do think it's the majority of people who are now in the extreme of light
Mm,
have gone in the extreme of darkness, right? I do think that. I do think, like, all the masters that we see on Twitter, and maybe, if White Tiger is seeing this by any chance, I like to call him my mentor, despite, there's no official name calling, but I like to call him my mentor. Like, I'm really grateful for him. Like, he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot. And if he's seeing this, like, I'm willing to bet he went through a lot of darkness as well, because it's like, I think it's like I don't know. We learn so much. We learn so much by being so dark. It's evil. It's a necessary evil, I would say.
I would agree. I would agree. I would say that it's the experience of darkness rather than the outward, consequences of it, outward manifestation of it. Because, as you said, among the seven deadly sins, for me, lust is what really attaches itself very strongly. And the problem is how much societal negative this carries, right? The connotation of lust itself. And it's crazy, especially the more aware of find the mental justifications have become. I'll narrate I'll open up about a recent episode, right? It's a friend's girlfriend, and we have a connection. It's beautiful. But in the beginning stages, when I was not so aware, I could just see the energetic boundaries getting entangled so quickly, so badly. She's been through a lot of trauma. I've been through trauma. There's that chemistry that's like, just like, very powerful. And I could just see how beautiful the arguments that were coming up were. That, maybe she needs to heal, and yeah, maybe I'm just meant to be a catalyst for her healing. And she's an agent, she has free agency herself. She can choose, it's not wrong. And maybe this bond is lifetimes old. It's probably karmic. It's the absolute amount of bullshit that comes into the picture, right? Where you really is. And it's been a challenge. I won't pretend to be a saint and say it's easy. I struggle when it comes to lust related things. And people think lust is purely sexual. It's not. It has a lot of psycho spiritual things going on, right? It's the energy that you're seeking, but it is down and dirty. And when the deed happens, you realize all of this shit was just to justify for that to happen, right? You think you have these, as you said, these motives which are beautiful, which are flowery, that, oh, maybe we'll both go through our healing together. I'll hold her through her storms. All these images, which are not true, which are utterly divorced from reality, but the mind conjures them up. And the darkness is so painful. People, when they talk to me, when I open up about these things, they think I've been through so much, like decades of experiences, but the experiences have been so sharp, like so visceral, right, from within. The pain that you described, it's the same. The darkness I've gone through in the lust department are so horrific. I would say the kind that makes you want to take your own life sometimes because you think, okay, this is the kind of piece of shit I am. Like you, and there is that difference between what you know, right? Especially as you get deeper into reality, as you have also, and we have, right? We know what is right, and that makes the darkness all the more darker. I've seen light. Now I see the darkness, which is darker still. And it takes courage to look at that and not be horrified, not be, I think, I've heard stories of darkness related to lust which are so painful. I just want to hug that person and just beg them not to take their lives. That's the kind of stuff I've seen, and I have so much respect for them. They embody so much light. The ones who have gone through these, and it's beautiful, right? It was occurring to me. I think I would love to know what you think of the same. It's almost as if as your capacity to embody light increases, so does the risk of falling into deeper and deeper darkness.
Yes, yes. I would agree 100%. It's like the phrase that I spoke on, the tree that goes to heaven has its deepest roots in hell. It's like, yeah, absolutely. That's why I said I really think you need to go through so much darkness to be able to embody more light. It's such a journey about learning about yourself, I don't know. I'm trying to put it in other words. I think we can come back to God whenever we want, right? And God, by being such a great father, we can say, he lets us stray away from him as far as we want to, right? And he doesn't condemn us, he doesn't judge us. He just like, I'll let you play however you want, and whenever you want to come back to me, you and by us going so far away from God, we realize, well, he lets us learn by ourselves, right? He's not trying to teach us, he's trying to just learn by yourself. You are intelligent enough to learn by yourself, and by us going so far away, we learn that it is all not worth it. It is all just going to bring, more suffering into my life, what I'm doing. And the only solution is to seek creation, is to seek wholeness, is to seek unity. That's the only solution. Ever, 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 ever. That's why I said it's a necessary evil. It's a necessary evil. And also, since we're touching on this, what would be the purpose of evolving the soul? We're here, we're evolving our soul, we're becoming better, we're uniting us again. We're trying to unite with the whole world, with the whole humanity, right? And then let's say we do. Let's say we accomplish that, right? What would happen when all humanity, all the souls are back in unity and create heaven on earth? And then let's say somehow no other soul reincarnates onto earth, right? Right. We leave samsara. We're all back in together. We're all one together. I think it would just restart. Honestly,
Hmm.
I think the whole cycle would just restart because it is my theory. It is my theory that all one is alone. Okay. So that means if you know everything, right? If you know everything, that means you are incapable of being surprised. That means you are incapable of have deep emotions, of having, exciting moments. Like you're just bored. You're
Yeah.
bored. You know everything and you're capable of everything. That means there's no challenges. There's no, life has meaning because it is difficult. Life has meaning because having abs, for example, it has meaning because it is a thing to do. Having money, it has meaning because it is hard to achieve. If the game was easy, you just get bored. Whenever you're playing a video game, you choose to do the challenge because it is challenging. And so I think the whole purpose of all of this is to entertain yourself, basically. It is God entertaining himself by separating and just seeing, I don't know how long it would take for us to get back together, something like that. Because there's no, I mean, I'll ask you, like, what do you think would happen, or why do you think we're here, basically? I'll ask you. I'm curious about your answer.
I would agree with what you're saying. Even the concept of time, when you say when we get back together, right, it will all restart. I think when stops making sense, if you look at what time really is, it's just a rate of change of something. And if nothing is changing, it's all one. What does time even mean? So it's a bit of a convoluted question that what will happen once we become united again? The whole Shakti concept, that's where it comes to even in Hinduism. It's like, I believe time exists only in our perception, right? Like you, me, we are embodied separate beings. If there's no separation whatsoever, what is changing then? If what is everything, right? Then there is no time because nothing is changing. It's all just is. So it's a bit of a clusterfuck, right? When you think about it, that when you're separate, time exists, and the whole game is to go back to unity, and once all souls go to unity, and time itself doesn't exist. Maybe time never existed. So it's within that 4D that the 3D of time is even working, and there is infinite cross sectional. It's I don't know. I think it's ineffable. Even in David Hawkins' levels of consciousness, he says that the higher levels, reality is ineffable. I understand. I'm sort of beginning to grasp what that means because it makes no sense and it's utterly beyond my capacity to even, I think, imagine what it really is. And even the liberation thing, right? I would love to know what you think. I'm thinking I don't want to be liberated. I'm not in a hurry to be liberated at all. It sounds crazy, but why would I want to leave samsara? There's so much I'm learning, there's so much I'm evolving, and I don't have perfect knowledge yet. There are so many other souls who also are suffering. It's like I'll take my time with samsara itself, play around in my life, have more lifetimes, accumulate more experiences, more darkness, see more of the dark, learn more of the light. And that's one of the reasons I exited the whole meditation side of things. It felt very dry. It felt very, I'm in a hurry to leave reality. I'm in a hurry to let go of this material reality. I'm not. You might be, but I'm not really. That's the truth. It took me a while to accept. I like being in the world. I like being off the world as well. So this detached ideal, what would you think of that? What do you think of that? The whole monk side of things, where they're just in a hurry to get out of reality, get out of samsara.
I think people are in a hurry to leave because they're attached to the idea of not wanting suffering, right? And that is in itself creating more suffering to themselves. Like they're just like they're wanting to escape this suffering by leaving samsara. Like if I leave, it's gonna stop. The suffering is gonna stop. But then they don't realize that by saying that and by affirming that, you were creating in fact more suffering, right? That desperation, that lack of control that you think you have over what happens to, well, over what you feel about what happens, because you don't have control about what happens, but you have control over how you see it, how you feel about it, right? It's actually very funny. I have a conspiracy theory friend, very huge in the elites and the people who control the world and who are the actors. And you touched on Elon Musk, and I don't know if you know this, but he's just an actor. He's just a celebrity. He's not as great as we think he is. There's the pedophiles, the satanic pedophiles running the show and whatever. And he's so huge and so focused onto that, and I've had very deep talks with him, and he's like, no, I just want to leave samsara because I don't want to be reincarnated. Why would I want to be reincarnated in a world that is controlled by all these? And he said to me, like, if he said to me that he would like to ask God, why would he allow people that are making such great suffering onto babies? Like, there's rituals out there where they have sex with babies, and they violate the babies, and it's very gross things to even think about. But then they use the blood to produce adrenochrome, which is immortality, like an immortality potion. They age, they reverse aging with that. It's the whole thing, right? And he's like, I would like to ask God, why does he allow that to happen? And I don't want to live in a world like this. And he's just like so focused on trying to leave. And he disagrees with me, but i would say that I would say that he's, people are choosing. It's like people are choosing to create the evil, right? It's not that God is allowing him. It is God is allowing him to do that, right? For the person to do that. But if he didn't, he wouldn't have really free will, right? It's like, it's the same freedom that my friend has, You have freedom to do whatever you want. The other person also has freedom to do whatever they want. And they're choosing to do a horrible thing with that freedom, but it's still their freedom, right? It is something that we need to stop, right? But it's very complicated. It's very complicated. When you go to the deepest, darkest things that humanity have done, I can't blame him for wanting to leave Earth, right? But also at the same time, I've talked about him. I've talked with him about how he needs to create his own reality, and you need to be a beacon of light in the darkest times. I'm kind of losing my words here. I'm not sure where I'm going with this. I'm going to be honest. Maybe you can help me out. Maybe you can help me out. What are your thoughts on what I just said with the
Uh,
being so focused on that?
as you said something, I experienced something, right? When you spoke about the deepest of dark things, especially that specific example that you gave, I just felt such a powerful psychic charge pushing me towards light. And I realized Osho once said, every experience exists. So only so the opposite can be understood, or something like that. Like every experience exists only for the opposite. If light didn't exist, we wouldn't understand what dark is. If good didn't exist, bad wouldn't exist either. So, in a way, I thought about this and thought that these souls who are choosing to do such horrible things are actually suffering even more bitterly. That we are free to choose what we want to do, which is right, which is, as you said, we have that freedom. But the consequences are inevitable. It's almost as if they come as a package, right? You can choose what you want to do, but the universe also has, consequences which are inevitable themselves. So in some way, every soul is actually very justifiably reaping whatever it's sowing. So I don't need to be worried about, the justice of the world. I personally, from my experience so far, whenever my own conviction in God, conviction in hope, beauty, light, faith has reduced, has fallen, or is shaken, that's when I've begun questioning the whole, why is the world like this? Why is everything evil? I think if you have deep faith in reality and you see that everything is going as it should, that there is justice essentially. The ones doing evil are again suffering bitterly in the effects of that. And if there was no darkness, it brings us back to that point, right? These are very, very nuanced topics. So I understand why you reach the laws of words. Even I am at that point. That if there was no darkness at all, what does light even mean? If there was no darkness, it's hard to visualize a bit, but it's like if you were to look at the whitest white and the darkest black, red as colors, if you were to put them side to side, the contrast will become only apparent as the white gets whiter and the dark gets darker. So I just believe that in some way, this evil, this degenerate evil, is absolutely necessary to produce the kind of light which is so bright and shiningly white that it blots out the darkness. What I believe is people like these are essential to produce someone like Jesus, someone like the
Mm,
Buddha.
mm.
And I really don't know if you were to ask me whether that's a fair deal. Do we need such suffering to produce such beacons of light? I don't know. Even I am at a loss when it comes to that answer, honestly.
My mentor that I've talked about, White Tiger on Twitter, he has spoken on that our default is light and love. Our default is to, I've spoken to him that that same exact concept, that it is because we have dark that we have light, and we live in a duality world. And he said, well, that may be true in this reality, in our physical reality, but in 4D or 5D, there is only light, there is only love, and that is our default. Our default is to be, like Jesus Christ, let's say. And we only stray away from that because of traumas, because of programs. When a baby is born, let's say it's like the first time, concept of time, I know, but let's say it's the first time that this soul, it's like a brand new soul coming into Earth. He doesn't have any past lives. He's born, he's a blank slate. He would be acting enlightened, like Jesus Christ, that baby, because it doesn't have any trauma. It's like a blank slate on the default, and the default is love and light, right? But it is only when the baby grows and the parents put on some traumas onto him, or life happens. So I don't remember exactly what White Tiger said, but I do know he said that it is possible to have light without having darkness, right? But I do think not in this physical world, because we live in duality. It's very clear that we live in duality based on the sun, the moon, man, woman, dog, cat. Very clear that we live in a duality world. So yeah, in this physical world, there needs to answer your question. I do think there needs to be the darkest of darks to bring on someone like Jesus or like Buddha, for some people to exist like that. But then in the astral plane, I do think it is possible without ever experiencing darkness to experience all the love and all the light or all the good pleasures in life. It's also, I just remembered of another theory that I have, which is whenever you die, let's say whenever your body dies, you go into the astral, and I think we reincarnate, because in the astral, if life is a mirror of your mind, then in the astral that mirror would be instant, because there's no concept of time, right? And you'd be instantly visualize what is on your mind, right? You're in the astral, there's no time, there's no space, right? So just instant reflection. And this is what I think people refer to as in hell or heaven. It's like you die and you go into what your mind is set to, right?
Mm,
What you've programmed yourself, what you've done to yourself. And then people want to reincarnate to change what they're gonna view when they go back above, right? And it is because we have the concept of time and space that we can change our mind, right? In the astral, I don't think we can change our minds, because there is
mm,
no other thing. There's no other thing than other than your reflection, right? In here, we are collectively sharing a mirror, let's say, and we're, oh shit. Did I just leave the, oh, okay, we're back. I just got disconnected for a second. You listening to me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. I got disconnected. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Are we back? I put it on.
Hey everyone, if you see any cut here at this point, me and Lucas had a lot of difficulties. Just sudden internet on and off, I think for a good 15 to 20 minutes. Likely all those parts would be cut out. But we had to end the call. We don't know if it just forces at play, especially we were getting into some quite, risky territory as well. with respect to forces and light and dark. So we don't really know. It's the first time it's ever happened here on Truth Talks, and it's also the first time it's ever happened to Lucas himself on any of his calls. So we don't know what's at play, but thank you all for tuning in and for giving your time here. All of Zoro's, Lucas's links will be down in the description if you want to follow him, and my links, as usual, will be there as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Much love. Take care. Godspeed, and see you all in the next episode.